So you're comfortable comping on simple jazz standards like All the Things You Are or Just Friends, but if somebody calls a complicated bebop head like Donna Lee or Confirmation, you're flummoxed. This is because bebop heads are way more complex and they require a lot more subtlety than the simple jazz standard. So in this video, I'm going to show you a method to figure out the important notes in these complex bebop heads so you can comp confidently and make it sound really authentic. So in this video, we're going to learn Confirmation by Charlie Parker. And the main thing here is to figure out the important notes. It's kind of like if you were framing a really complex, fancy painting. You don't want to put some crazy macaroni art frame on a complex painting because it distracts from this beautiful painting that's in the center, right? You want to find the simplest possible way that will make the painting itself pop when you frame it, okay? And that's what we want to do when we're comping on these bebop heads. We find the few notes that are the most important in the head, and then that's what we play to make the head itself shine. Now, the first step to learning any of these tunes is going to be listening to it until you can sing it. If you can't sing it, this is going to turn into some weird abstract math experiment, and it's just going to sound unnatural when you comp to it, okay? So the way that I usually recommend learning it is by listening to a small chunk and then trying to sing it back, right? So singing the first phrase, right? Pause the song, sing that, right? And then listen to the next phrase, right? And if you go phrase by phrase with each of these Charlie Parker songs, it's a lot easier to learn them than if you just hear this running string of bebop lines that just sounds overwhelming, okay? Now, once you do that, we want to go through and find the important notes. And this will really teach you about jazz phrasing because there's certain notes that just always get accented in jazz phrasing, and we can see the patterns by checking about these Charlie Parker bebop lines, okay? So let's go through this. This very first phrase. Okay, you can see here, the very first thing that I'm going to want to accent is individual syncopated notes, okay? Like, if it's like this, where there's rests in between it, then you're always going to want to accent those because listen to how I sing it. Right? Those are the most important notes in the line. Now, the other things that we're probably going to accent is typically the end of phrases, right? If when you sing it, you accent the end of each phrase, then that's one that you're going to accent when you're comping, right? So here, ba-do-bop, this is the end of this little 3-note phrase, right? And you can hear it when I sing it, ba-do-bop, bop, that I am accenting it, okay? In this phrase, you're also going to hear that we accent what I call landing notes. So in jazz music, there'll be sometimes like a pickup that goes onto a downbeat, kind of like here, right? So it goes offbeat to downbeat, this being a downbeat, and we'll accent the downbeat. So bu-do-ba-bu-de, right? Bu-do-ba-bu-de. We're really accenting that beat 3. It's not bu-do-ba-da-da, right? Bu-do-ba-bu-de-da-da-bu-bu-bu-de-bu. So I'm going to accent this one. That's what I call a landing beat, okay? Now, I know some of these sound all over the place. You're going to start to see the pattern as we go through the whole tune. Maybe the only other one in this line is I would accent this, the high note, okay? So far we've accented singular syncopated beats, we've accented a high note, we've accented the last note of phrase, and we accented a landing beat. That's going to be all for this one, okay? Now, let's go to this phrase. Again, singular accented offbeats, right? This is the end of this phrase, and then this is an accented offbeat by itself, right? Maybe we could also accent this beat right here because it's a landing beat, right? It's a downbeat that's led into by an 8th note, okay? And then this one we don't accent because it's actually the pickup for the next phrase, right? It's a pickup for a landing beat. Right? And then again, this is a landing beat. This beat 3 is kind of a landing beat. And then I would probably accent that and a 3. You can hear by the way I'm doing it, it's the last note of the phrase. So there we have 2 in a row because we got landing beat, last note of a phrase. Okay? And then here, this is another type of note that we'll usually accent, which is a long note. Okay? So we have the long note. We're definitely going to do the last note of this phrase. Okay. So the first note of this phrase also, ba-dum, ba-ba-doo-doo-dee-doo, right? So couple patterns here. We got the first, the last, we got the long notes, consecutive offbeats. We're gonna ignore the pickups usually, and then we're gonna have landing beats, okay? Ba-dum, ba-ba-doo-boo-dee-da. Here, this is kind of a landing beat. It's a strong beat 3. Ba-dum, boo-ba-doo-boo-dee-da, okay? Getting a bunch of accents. All right, let's go to this one. Ba-da-ba-dee-da-dee-da. Long note, definitely gonna accent. Last note of this phrase, gonna accent. We're gonna accent this one. This is kind of a landing note, right? Ba-doo-ba-doo-doo-dee-da. Now into the next phrase. Ba da-da-da-da-ba-da-ba-da, right? I'm not gonna accent anything in here, right? Because there's this fast, smooth legato line. I don't need to be chunking that up with a bunch of accents, okay? If anything, I'll do the last note of that phrase, and I'll definitely do this short note on beat 1. Bop, da-da-da-ba-da-ba-da, boop, bip, boop. Again, syncopated offbeats, singular offbeats. I'm catching all of those. Okay, long note. I'll take that one, please. Here, I'll probably go for the last note of that. And then here, I'll probably go to the last note of there. That's really a landing beat, right? It's a strong beat that's led into by this little triplet. And then, of course, I'm going to grab the long note, okay? If this goes really fast, feel free to just rewind it, watch it a couple times. You're going to get used to the patterns of this as you go through more Charlie Parker Bebop tunes, okay? And then, long note here. Be-da. I'm going to grab the short note at the beginning of this. This is kind of like landing beat. 3, right? Last note of the phrase. I'm not going to play anything in all of that because I don't want to disrupt the line. Long note, dot, last note of the phrase. Okay? Okay, again, in this whole big thing, I'm not going to play all those 16th notes. I'm just going to catch the long note. Maybe I can catch all of these because they're kind of like short notes all together. I'll just let them play that. I don't need to play all that. You can hear, because of the way this line is shaped, that first note is the highest, and so it's accented. And then this is like a landing beat, beat 3. Right? You hear when I sing it, it's just obvious where the thing is. I'm not going to go, right? That sounds awkward. That's not what it would sound like, okay? And then here, D. Again, long note. Maybe the landing note. High note. Maybe I would play this beat 3. I didn't do it at the beginning. I won't do it here. But I am going to catch those singular syncopated notes. Again, going to catch this landing note, this offbeat, and then the singular note. Okay, landing note, last note, right? You see, it becomes kind of a pattern once you get used to this, you know? It's not different every time. Last 2 notes for sure. Long note for sure. Last note of this phrase for sure. Okay, I'll catch the last note of this line. Okay, probably the first note of that line is as well. It's also the highest note. Okay, cool. So I accented a bunch of notes. Now let me play through this, and I'm going to sing the line, and then I'm going to play all the accents that I wrote. Now you're going to see that this is not the finished product. We actually have a couple of steps left to this, but I just want you to hear what this sounds like with these important notes. So here we go, singing and reading along with our accents here. Let's go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. ba-do ba ba-dee ba-doo ba ba-dee ba-doo ba ba-doo ba-dee ba ba-doo ba-dee ba-dee da 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 ba-dee ba-doo ba-dee ba-dee da da ba-doo da 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 ba-doo ba-da da da ba-doo da 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 ba-doo da da ba-doo ba-doo ba-dee ba da Okay, there you go. So you see, that actually works quite well, right? It frames the song. It sounds like the song, right? I'm making the changes, right? Now, the only thing I would say about that is that it's maybe a little too dense for one thing. Like I'm playing too much. I'd probably play slightly less than this. The other thing is that I'm always playing with them, right? I'm always complimenting what they're playing. And it's good to figure out what to compliment, but you don't always have to compliment. So another stage I would go through if I was learning this tune is what can I contrast, right? So for example, instead of playing with them, where can I jump in the gaps? This song has perfect places to do that. Right? People all the time will play in the gaps in this song, okay? So, so you could play in this gap, for example. Right? Play in this gap, right? Playing the gap again. Gap. Right? Here's a gap that I'm going to play in. I would probably set this up, right? So, you know, something like right? That's a perfect spot right before the bridge. I'm probably going to go for that every time, okay? Get to the bridge. Good spot for a fill. Little gap there. Another gap. So again, if I sing this again and I just play in every gap, it's going to have a little bit of a different feel. We're going to have right? So that also works. That frames the song very, very well. It's just a different approach. Now, again, I could play through the whole song just playing the gaps. I could also play all the accents and play all the gaps. That's going to be too much though. These are just ways to approach songs that frame them musically, right? And I recommend with every Charlie Parker Bebop head you learn, and I hope you learn a lot of them, that you go through both of these approaches to really learn them deeply. If you can play and sing the melody, if you can catch all the hits of the melody, if you can catch all the gaps of the melody, then when you go to actually perform the song, then you can do some mix of those. You can just let your intuition inform what you're going to do. And that's more what you hear professional jazz drummers doing when they play these songs, okay? So in a second here, I'm going to put all these things together and I'm going to use all these ideas in a way that's more musical. I'm also going to play like about 30% of everything we've done. I'm not going to play everything because I don't need to overplay on this, okay? Before we do this, if this seems overwhelming, you want some deeper help learning the bebop tunes that you're playing with people, that you're playing in your jazz groups, or that you're playing at jam sessions, that is something I help my private students with. If you're interested in becoming a mentorship student, click the link in the description. You can get some more information and reach out. there you go. If you learn the important notes, you play the gaps, you're gonna know these bebop tunes much better, and it's gonna be a lot easier to comp to them. But now you're gonna be ready to go to a jam session. So click here to watch my video on how to get jam session ready.